Hello everyone and welcome to Durbanites FPL Game Week 30 review and Game Week 31 preview. Only 8 more weeks left in the competition, so things are getting a bit tight. Let's start with the table. Only one noticeable move here. Onana Zakia moving up to second, overtaking Azra after having another shocking week. Mohamed Salah still holds on to the lead now. He's 12th in a row, 13 overall. Getting into the end stages, he's going to really have to defend that. But now he's got a nice 19 point, or is it 9 point gap? Sorry. Then looking at the rest of the table, a lot of close battles here. Azra is holding on just by 4 points. There's a lot of things happening. Not much movement elsewhere in the table, but again, the battle right at the bottom is also very, very close as well as mid-table. Now, looking at the player selections, very strange things happening. Only 4 staples now. Only 4 players selected by more than 5 out of 10 managers, and that's Ollie Watkins, who unfortunately had only half a game this week, and then William Saliba, Alfonso Areola, and Bukayo Saka. Now, looking at the differentiators this week, Luis Diaz being one of the big ones, as well as Emi Martinez doing really well, getting 10 between the sticks for Villa. Jared Bowen and Heung-min Son, each one picking up 10 as well. Son owned by 4 out of 10 managers as Spurs now look to close up the season. Not much else stand out, so with that, let's have a look at the hits and misses for this week. Now, quite a few hits, starting with Palmer. So, Palmer in that Zach and Ami both captained Palmer this week, and he came through with 15 points. So that's a big 30 points boost for both of them. And then in the midfield, also owing a bit to Palmer, but also good calls out there by Son, Bowen as well in the play, and Salah. So 40 plus points for Zach's Ami and myself. And then, of course, just to call out here for the Stonewall, so more than 25 points from the back line in a week that was pretty tough for Fatih and Hassan. So really good call outs this week. And unfortunately, one miss, and this is the hot bench. Now, Saida doing something amazing, picking up the second hot bench in a row, both with 21 points from last week and this week, and really stopping her from moving up the table at this moment in time. Now, looking at the best possible selection from the players that we had at the back, Emi Martinez was definitely undisputed this week. He was the only one, and then quite a few defenders coming in, specifically the 3 defenders out of Arsenal coming into the lineup, specifically because that was a 0-0 draw with Manchester City. Then Roslav and Pau Torres being the other 2 selected. Now, looking at the midfield, that's where all the action happened. Son, Luis Diaz, Bowen, each one coming in with 10 points. Gordon coming in with 8, and would have been 10 if he didn't get a red card or 2 yellows in that match. And then Palmer, the standout, 15 points with his goals and assists, so then coming up to 30 with bonus points. Solanke, the only standout striker, with 7. Muniz and Tony adding in there on the bench, and then Gabriel, of course, the third defender that was sitting on the bench, and then Areola, the only other goalkeeper, with 2, and he was selected mainly because he's selected by so many of our team. Now, this selection, we've got you 110 for the week, 129 with the bench boost at only a cost of 92.8. We're starting to see this trend of players that don't cost an arm and a leg, but can really make the difference. So, time to look at the fixtures rather than the big name stars. And what does that mean? Looking at the fixtures coming up for this week, it's a bit of a crazy week. The small selection, only Bournemouth, Wolves and Liverpool are the only ones with a real call out on a good run of 3 weeks. Bournemouth with Crystal Palace and Luton coming up, so a good chance for players like Semenyo and Solanke to get some points on the board. Wolves currently have a lot of injury issues, but they do have a very good run on paper. But here you're looking at Hichan is out, Neto is out, Cunha hasn't been scoring as well as he could be. However, he could be one to pick for trips to Bournemouth, West Ham and Forest. Now, Liverpool were really good in their comeback win this weekend. Now they have Sheffield United coming up before a tricky one to Manchester United, who, if you remember, had a late victory against them in the FA Cup. So that's going to be super tricky. And then Crystal Palace, but I would still back Liverpool and their players that are on form. Alexis McAllister had a stunning game this weekend as well. Mo Salah is again going back to form. Connor Bradley was really good with his moves. All of them didn't have the best game or best results for points, but they're definitely looking dangerous. Chelsea is called out here. They have a tricky one at Manchester United, but between Chelsea and Manchester United, they have a bit of the same style this week in that anything can happen. Now, Cole Palmer is on great form, and the rest of the players are also looking pretty good. So, um, just calling them out there. And then they have Sheffield United and Everton in the 2 weeks after that. And Chelsea have, like Newcastle, have a really good run towards the end of the season, as well as double game weeks coming up very soon. So, just keep an eye on that. And then Manchester City, who have a tough run to Aston Villa. After that play against Arsenal, they'll be hoping to get a win, but Villa are a very tough team. Unai Emery is very cagey. However, following that, they've got Crystal Palace and Luton, so you might want to look at bringing in those Manchester City players again. Here, looking at guys like Phil Foden, Erling Haaland, Kevin De Bruyne, but just a call out, maybe not so much for this week, but the weeks to come. Now, looking at what to be cautious with, now this gets a bit trickier. Aston Villa have a tough run coming up to maintain their 4th position. They've got Manchester City this week, and in 2 weeks they take on Arsenal. Both of these teams are fighting for the Premier League title. They are not going to take it easy. So Aston Villa is going to have to pull out the A game. That being said, they have beaten them previously in the season, so they would not be too intimidated. Then you've got Everton having a struggling season as well, and they've got Newcastle coming up next, and then they've got Burnley and then Chelsea. So again, not the best time to pick up Everton players. Luton as well have Arsenal, Manchester City, almost a reverse of what Aston Villa have. Not a good time for Luton as well, although they could upset. Then Sheffield United have got Liverpool and Chelsea back to back before getting Brentford. Not one I would call out. And then Crystal Palace as well, with their injuries, they've got Bournemouth this week, and then City and Liverpool. Really not a good time to have Crystal Palace players. Would be good to start transferring them out. And then Manchester United, again, a tricky one at Chelsea this week, then followed by Liverpool, which again could go anyway before going to Bournemouth. So if you have some Manchester United players, I would not recommend putting them on in the weeks to come. That being said, let's look at our player selections. So out of the back line, there's a lot of injuries to goalkeepers this season. Alisson Becker is still out, Robert Sanchez still out, Nick Pope still out, and Alphonse Areola is now doubtful for West Ham. Now looking at the defenders as well, Alexander-Arnold out, Sven Botman is out, Kieran Trippier is still doubtful and did not play in this game week, so one that you've really got to watch. Kyle Walker is now doubtful, and Ake at City, and then Doughty is still doubtful for Luton, but anyway, we will not recommend this week. And then Emerson from West Ham. Now looking at the picks, Bournemouth still have a good run on paper, so Neto might be a good option at goalkeeper. Leno from Fulham, and Fulham we know are doing a little bit better at the back end now, and Leno's a pretty good keeper. And then Keller from Liverpool, especially for this week, he did really well. Unfortunately conceded the goal, but I think he's still a good pick and at a good price as well. Then looking at the defenders, we've got Anderson from Crystal Palace. Again, maybe this week is the last week you want to hold on to him before letting him go. But then the Spurs pair of Romero and Pedro Porro. If Spurs are looking to catch that top 4 spot, this is the time they have to come up. From Liverpool, we've got Conor Bradley, who's still replacing Alexander-Arnold. And if you watch the games, he is really, really dangerous. He makes these runs inside. He takes the shots. He really is good potential to score. So that's why we're backing him. And then, of course, from Liverpool, you've got Scar and Trippier. Trippier, if he plays, is really a good player to have in there. A lot of assists. Newcastle still have a good run to go. They don't have any further red or top 6 fixtures left in this season. So definitely want to look at for the next 8 weeks. Then you've got John Stones. John Stones, again, playing a similar role to Bradley, cutting in and being the inverted winger. He's playing more as a midfielder and definitely one that can score. And then you've got from Arsenal, White, Saliba and Gabriel. These guys are 3 of the top defenders for the season. Arsenal is doing really well at the back line, holding that line this week as well. Good points from them. You can choose from any one of them depending on what your budget will allow. So looking at the midfield now, we've got Gordon out after having 2 yellows, so that red card rules him out for this week. And then we've got from Wolves, Heechan and Neto are out, both of them. Sinisterra from Bournemouth is out, so he's going to miss this good run. Olise from Crystal Palace is coming back, but he's lacking match fitness, so he's doubtful for this week. Jota is also expected to come back next week, but for this weekend he's out. And Matoma's probably again going to miss the rest of the season. Now looking at the picks, even though they're going to Manchester United, you've got to look at Cole Palmer for Chelsea. He takes their penalties. He's really good at getting into these spaces. Manchester United have been fidgety at the back. So definitely one that I would say, based on his form, you might want to choose him. And of course, bearing in mind that bringing him in means that Chelsea's double game weeks, which are coming up, will give you the ideal opportunity to have this player on your team. Iwobi from Fulham is one that you might want to look at this week, as well as Andreas Pereira to look at making those chances. And then from Crystal Palace, again, just this week, Jordan Ayew and Herbert Eze are the ones to look at. And then Mo Salah, McAllister, and Luis Diaz. Liverpool are definitely playing really well. These guys are powering them forward from midfield. McAllister is looking more and more dangerous. He starts taking more chances towards the end of the season. Mo Salah is Mo Salah. I mean, he's been the most consistent point scorer this entire season. And Luis Diaz just recently has picked up a great run of form. Now, looking at Bruno Larsen from Burnley, Burnley have a 50-50 fixture this week, and he is their penalty taker and has scored in the last couple of weeks, including a double-figure haul. So one that you might want to look at if the budget is tight. And then from Arsenal, lots of choices. Again, I've listed all of them because depending on your budget and depending on where they play on the day, you might want to look at them. But Saka, Havertz, Martinelli, and Odegaard, as well as Rice, all 5 of them are options. All of them listed as midfield, but some of them playing in a forward position. Really good options for picking up points through this tough game week. Then looking at the forwards, Watkins from Villa, he's doubtful. Now we know that he only played one half this week, so it is wondering whether he might play the full game next week. Also considering that if you want to captain him, it's going to be a bit of a chance. João Pedro from Brighton is looking to come back, but he also is lacking match fitness, so a bit doubtful. But Brighton do need a goal scorer, as you've seen from this week, and they're not getting enough out of their midfield, so might want to look at him. And then you've got Callum Wilson, who's out for Newcastle, and Awoniyi, who's out for Nottingham Forest. Just want to call them out since they have been picks in the past. Now, looking at the picks for this week, of course, you've got Solanke and Semenyo at Bournemouth. Bournemouth still have that good run on paper. These are the guys that are putting the ball in the net. So these are options you might want to look at. Rodrigo Muniz, again this week for Fulham. You definitely want to look at him because he's another guy on form, just scoring every single game or at least having a goal involvement. And then you've got Darwin Núñez from Liverpool. Now, granted, he has not been in the greatest scoring form, and I myself personally don't choose him because I think he's a bit too erratic. However, he is looking dangerous as well, and Liverpool have the fixtures to give him an opportunity. Isak from Newcastle, he's doing really good. Alexander Isak, he's scored again this week. Possibly he can score again. Again, just calling out the Newcastle players because on paper they have a great run coming up to the end of the season. So you might want to consider them. Chris Wood from Forest, with Awoniyi out, he's definitely going to play, and he scored again this weekend, so there's a chance that he might do it again. He has had some double-figure hauls in the past, so one to look at. And then from Arsenal, they don't really rely on their strikers this season, but Gabriel Jesus, again, having watched the game against Man City, he definitely played well, definitely had some chances, and might be the one to get a few goals if you're looking for that kind of forward from Arsenal to capitalize on that. And then Ivan Toney from Brentford, as expected, he's come back fully rested, of course, after being suspended for most of the season. He's come back, he's dangerous, he's definitely someone that can score against Brighton's defense, and definitely want to look at because Brentford also get a little bit of an easier run towards the end of the season. So that's the wrap up for this week. A very short game week wrap up because the next game week starts within the next 24 hours. So please don't forget to make your changes. But that's what we have for this week. So once again, if you like the video, please drop us a like, share this, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. But until next week, so long for now.